So I'm Ram. I'm a software engineer who is working on applying technology to real estate in Toronto. This is going to be a, let's hope, short, interesting presentation about the analyzing of lobbying data from Toronto's Lobbyist Registrar, or how I lost my mind trying to clean data and learn to love search. So we're going to start out by talking a bit about how I got nerd swiped by Toronto's Lobbyist Registrar, how we can turn raw open data into useful insights, and then we're going to go through some lobbying reports. So one of my favorite writers on the Toronto politics beat is Matt Elliott and his excellent City Hall Watcher Substack. One of the great things about Elliott is he doesn't just talk about the statements of politicians. He goes in deep to the machinery of Toronto's government. And he has an ongoing series called Lobbyist Watch, where he talks about the most interesting lobbying efforts against Toronto's municipal government. And from July's edition, we have the Coalition Against New Home Taxes, a Voltron group founded by developers Republic, Originate, Altera, and Hero Capital, who hired policy concepts to lobby about their desire to reduce the municipal land transfer tax and development charges on all new housing to combat the housing affordability crisis. Ryan Cole is on the file. Cole is formerly advisor to the Ontario Ministry of Finance, or Doug Ford, and sent an email to Mayor Olivia Chow on July 30th. So how does Elliott know this? Whenever you lobby the City of Toronto at the municipal level, you need to file with the City of Toronto's Lobbyist Registrar. So you need to tell the city who you are, who you're lobbying on behalf of, who you're lobbying, what your goals are, who's giving you money. And the City of Toronto has a nice little search portal here. And like the search portal, it's not bad, but it also is kind of limiting. So let's look up the name of our organization here. So this is the coalition, maybe under beneficiaries. Okay, here we have under beneficiaries. So we can see, this is the registration number. This will come up. This will be useful later of our little lobbying effort. Here's our lobbyist. Here's the lobbying firm. Here's their address. They want to reduce the municipal land transfer tax and development charges. We got our 4 members of our little lobbying group. And we can see that they sent an email to Mayor Olivia Chow on July 31st, and they sent 2 emails to 2 members of the mayor's staff today. So I guess that's the 20th. So let's say, we think this is interesting, but let's find out more about Ryan J. Cole, right? So we search for him here. And the problem here that we run into is the search is kind of bad, right? We don't see Ryan, we see Brian because Ryan is in Brian. We see Justin because, his name starts with a J, and Ryan J. Cole's, middle initial is J, right? And like, it's not bad. Here we have Ryan Cole. I think we scroll down here, we're gonna find him. Oh, here's another one. Oh, no, this is the same one by him. So again, like the tool isn't horrible, but it could be better. Like when I saw this data source, my initial thought was like, I wanted this beautiful front end with the structured data and like it automatically generating like wall of crazy. So you can see how all the parts are related to each other. So this data is collected on our behalf as citizens of Toronto. And one of the concepts behind open data is that we as citizens should be able to directly interact with that data. So the City of Toronto kindly, as part of its open data portal, publishes this data. And you can see on the open data portal, there's about 500 data sets which are published by 40 different government departments, and the different data sets are published with different frequencies. So let's look for our data. So we want to find lobbying data. So Lobbyist Registry. And we can see that the Lobbyist Registrar publishes it, and it's published daily, and the last refresh was today. So I think around 4:30, maybe a bit earlier in the day, there was an automatic database dump. They downloaded everything from their database and they uploaded it to the Toronto Open Data portal. So we can see here, download data. They're going to give us two links. So let's download this README file. Let's download this zip file here. And then we're going to open up this README here. So this is what the data actually looks like. Well, this describes how the data looks like. So we have a subject matter and we have registrants. Before we get too deep into this, let's open up the zip folder, and that's going to give us two files, two quite large XML files. So one is 61 megabytes and one is 130 megabytes. And the thing you got to remember is both of these files, one of the reasons they are massive, and they're not just like normal massive, they're all text. So there's like an enormous amount of data in here. But let's look at our our README here and let's compare it. So it says at the top, subject matter. So this is our, I guess, our SM. Then we have subject matter number. That's this first row here. Then we have status, you have type, so on and so on. But this isn't just a table, it's hierarchical data. So each subject matter, it has a registrant. So we scroll down here, yep. So we see our registrant, registrant number, registrant number with senior officer number, status, it's matching here. We can scroll down a bit. We got business address for the registrant. Then we have beneficiaries. Where is our beneficiaries? Beneficiaries are down here on this README. So you can see, beneficiary type, name, home ownership alternatives, fiscal date, etc. You can see firms, etc. And all of this just continues on and on and on and on and on for every lobbying attempt, as I think since 2008. So let's look at this file a bit more and let's see what's going to be in here. So we have this first table, or this first element called subject matter. Just talks about what the lobbying effort is about. The second table here is going to be called registrant. So this is the person who actually registered. Let me actually make this bigger so it's easier to read. This is the person who registered the lobbying effort. This is the person who told the City of Toronto about it. This is the person who has the legal obligation to do so. So next is communications. Anytime they communicate with an elected official or even someone who works for an elected official. So we saw earlier from the Coalition Against New Home Taxes that they emailed 2 staff members of the mayor. Next, we have grassroots efforts. So if there's any attempt to activate a grassroots organization to lobby on their behalf, they have to tell us. Anytime whoever is the beneficiary, in this case, as we saw for the one they were looking at, our coalition and our 4 developer friends. So the firms, this is who's doing the lobbying. In our case, this is policy choices. Private funding, who is going to pay for this? Who paid for this lobbying effort? Government funding, if anyone involved with this receives money from the government as a grant, etc., they have to disclose. Anytime there's a meeting with an elected official or another government official, they have to disclose the meeting, who they met with. So POHS is public office holder, and the lobbyist, who met with them. So once I got access to this data, I immediately, eagerly, jumped in. I was like, my wall of crazy is starting to appear. I can start to see it. I'm just going to parse all this data. I'm going to clean it. It's all going to be great. But we start to run into hiccups. So what we basically need to do is to convert these 2 large XML files into SQLite files. So XML, it's kind of an old format, creates large files. It's good for transferring data, but it's not good for querying data. When we want to query data, we often put it into a database, in this case, a relational database. So we're going to use one of the more popular relational databases called SQLite. SQLite, it's free, it's fast, it's easy to use. So, I start parsing the data, I start writing the code to convert these 2 file formats. And then we start to run into, some weird things. So this first one here, you'll notice that, for example, they choose to spell registrant with a capital U. It's kind of annoying, but, I'll deal with it. And then, we have information about the registrant. And then we have, we have several tables. If we go to our schema here, you can see there are several address tables, right? And I'm thinking, let's structure this so it's easier to work with. Like, let's put this all into one address table. The great thing about addresses, if you have two organizations who don't share the same name but share the same address, you can intuit that there's a link between the two organizations. So they've chosen a Canadian style address format. Address line 1, address line 2, city, province, country, postal code, phone, right? But other people who don't live in Canada, they sometimes choose to lobby the city of Toronto, and they are also subject to our laws. So let's look for USA, right? So we have someone here from the USA, and they don't have postal codes, right? They have zip codes. So I was thinking, hey, let's split this into two tables. It'll be fine, right? Yes. So now, then I was like, okay, postal code. They're not doing validation on postal codes, but they'll be fine, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, there are many countries, right? So there's the Netherlands. They do postal codes this way. There's Croatia, who does postal codes this way. Japan does postal codes this way. I'm like, okay, three address tables, right? We got Canada, we got the US, we got international. And then I'm like, wait, why is Tokyo a province? Like, wait, Tokyo's definitely not a province here. And then, to my horror, I realized they are doing basically no validation on any of these text fields. So it's just a text field. You can type whatever you want. There's not a drop down. There's no validation, and it just accepts it, right? So you can write your province as Ontario, as Tokyo, ONT. One person chose to write their province as O. So this kind of becomes a real problem, because you got to remember, this file is generated every day. So I'm not just cleaning the file. I need to write code to clean the file. So when tomorrow the new file is generated, I can also automatically clean it. So now my data cleaning file is like several hundred lines long. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go and find all these edge cases. It's gonna be horrible. My personal favorite one, let's see if we can find it. A with tilde. So someone chose spell CANAD. Yes, someone chose to spell Canada with several uppercase tildes. And because there's no validation, it just accepted that, this is their country, right? And the problem soon, and you got to remember, each of these edge cases, you got to write code to clean it up, right? Or it's going to break my beautiful wall of crazy, right? Because they're just going to be like, oh, there's 10,000 lobbying attempts from Canada, and there's just like this one weird one for this country with all the tildes in it, right? So I'm slowly starting to go insane. But I'm like, hey, let's start with the data cleaning. Let's start with maybe we can restructure the data a bit. So I go back here and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. So I see meeting and I see communications. These are pretty similar, right? Meeting, this but what the meeting is. Then we have the public office holder who attended the meeting. And then we have, the lobbyist who attended the meeting. And that's in three tables, right? So we have one table, and then we've got the sub-element. This table is pretty similar, but for some reason, they've chosen to structure it differently, right? So they have, the person the public office holder, who is at the meeting. We have the communication method. And then we have, the lobbyist that attended the meeting. It's kind of weird that, this is different, but, actually, what is a communication method, right? So you can talk to someone over the phone, right? You can text someone, right? You can email someone. Wait, can you talk to someone in person? Maybe we can't. find. Control F. We're going to find out if we can talk to someone in person. Sorry about that. Oh, a fun little one. So the Excel file says communication methods with an S, but the actual file says communication without an S. That's just lovely. But also, meetings are a form of communication methods. So as far as I can tell, they sometimes will put a meeting in the meeting table, and they will sometimes put meetings in the communications table, which and the tables, the columns don't match up, so the whole thing like becomes like a real pain. So anyways, like I'm halfway through this, I'm starting to go insane. I'm pretty much gone insane, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll stop cleaning the data. It's thousands of lines of data cleaning. It's a mess. Like I don't even understand anymore. I can't imagine anyone else would understand the mess I've made. But let's start with the front end. So I start to build a front end. It kind of looks like this. And I'm not a front end engineer. I'm a back end engineer. And like, this is okay, but you do get Control F on the entire page, and like, it's cool, but it's not that much better than the government version. And I did kind of quit halfway through because I just hated the data cleaning. I just put it on the side for months because I just hated the idea of waking up and cleaning the data. And you got to remember, this file is re-updated every day. So there's new bad data every day for me to clean. But after several months of procrastination, I just accepted that it was impossible. There's just no way for any human to clean by hand 180 megabytes of files. And I was like, okay, let's just do the bare minimum. Let's make it so we can search. We can just search the files, and if the text string matches, it'll be cool. So that's how we got to our solution right now. So this used to be several dozen files. It's ended up being 2 files that I wrote, which converts the XML file, the 2 180 megabyte files, into a database. And when I say I wrote, that's slightly misleading. Claude wrote the 2 files for me. So Claude, built by Anthropic, is a competitor to OpenAI's ChatGPT. So what you can do is, it's not good enough yet that you can just give it the Excel file and tell it to write the code. You got to do a bit more prompting. You got to give it table by table, and you got to encourage it a little bit. But Claude does not get lazy. Claude will do repetitive work, and they'll take care of it. If you tell Claude, there's not supposed to be an ask, but there is an ask. It doesn't go insane. It's like, oh, it's no problem. It'll even apologize to you for your error. But Claude, it wrote this file, it works, and it wrote this other file which stores the tables. But we can't really trust Claude. Claude is pretty good, but like all LLMs, it can't really think. It's just good at guessing, and maybe it guessed wrong. So we have a solution. So as programmers, we have a tool called unit tests. So whenever we write code, we can also write tests that say, we expect the code to do this. And if it doesn't do this, it's probably wrong. So for example, here's a unit test that says all the tables in our database need to have rows. If there's not rows, if the code Claude has written doesn't put rows in one of the tables, it's probably wrong. Or this one that says, well, in our firms table, these are the valid values. If it's not one of these, then Claude has done something wrong, or someone else has done something wrong. And one of the great things about writing tests is it forces you to really understand and to explore your problem, right? It's difficult to write tests if you don't understand the problem. And for me personally, I think I enjoyed writing the test much better than cleaning the data manually. And I think I learned a lot more. So we're going to run the code. What it's going to do here, it's going to download the file from the city of Toronto. It's going to extract them. It's going to create the database tables. It's going to extract both files, convert them into a database. Now, this is going to take about a minute, and I'm lazy, so we're just going to go to the version which has already been deployed. So let's go to our favorite, totally authentic, lobbying group, the Coalition Against New Home Taxes. We're just going to search here at the top. Now we're going to find out if things work. The fun thing about live demos is it always works when you're not running the live demo. So the tool, let's actually check the dashboard here. The tool I'm using for hosting is called Vercel. And what does Vercel say is happening? So that's lovely. It's not currently working, but luckily, the version that we're running on my computer is working. So I will troubleshoot that later. But this is the version we just built 2 minutes ago. Let's now look up our favorite AstroTurf group. So as you can see, we've got one result in beneficiaries. I think to note here is we searched the entire database. We searched all the tables at the same time. You didn't need to know which one it was going to be in. Okay, and it's a client, and we have a subject matter number. So let's pull up the information about the subject matter. Okay, so we got the information. Here's the client. Here are the members of the Coalition Against New Home Taxes, our favorite developers, Harlow, Altera, Originate, and Republic. We have our lobbying firm, Policy Concepts, and we have the communications that they engaged in. So on July 31st, they emailed Mayor Olivia Chow. They also emailed today Emily Trudeau and Chris Ball of the mayor's office. You can see that they plan to activate several grassroots groups. They plan to encourage members of the public to email the mayor and contact her to encourage her to lower taxes on new home developers. And you can see this operation is funded by our four friends, the real estate developers. So again, as I said, there's no validation. So I assume that our favorite lobbyist, Mr. Ryan Cole, let's look him up in the register table. So this is our registrant ID. This is the person that created this. And it is Mr. Ryan Cole. So they didn't fill out the lobbyist that sent the emails. I'm going to guess it's Mr. Ryan Cole. It might not be because, again, the form ought to require the information about who sent the emails. They choose not to. But so back to the question we had earlier. What is Mr. Ryan Cole? Ryan J. Cole also lobbying about. Okay, so he's involved in 4 different lobbying projects. And we can pull that up. We can see he is lobbying on behalf of so he's lobbying on behalf of what looks like a church, and they want to mitigate the impacts of the Ontario Line construction. Here he's lobbying on behalf of, I guess, a real estate developer. Oh, look, our 2 friends. He has some repeat clients. So he's lobbying on behalf of a real estate developer for a construction project in Scarborough Junction. We can see this one here. Oh, this one actually kind of seems interesting. He is lobbying on behalf of a company called Carbo for their mobility as a service solution. That seems cool. Um, and this one looks like another real estate developer. Oh, no, he's lobbying. Ooh, who does he work for here? Oh, yeah, this is the one from earlier, our coalition to lower taxes. So now we have all of this data here. It is in this nice SQL format. So we can easily, ask it questions. Let's, I live in Ward 10. So let's look up public office holder. Let's go Ward 10. Let's use, should be this one. There we go. And let's sort by date. Sort by date the other way. And here are the people that have chosen to email or communicate in some way with my city councilor. So let's actually, so we can see here, this was the 6th month. So June 6th, someone chose to, the Rideshare Drivers Association of Ontario chose to hire a lobbyist to talk to a city councilor about the regulation of fleet sizes. You can see this one. But we can see some of these here are repeats. So one of the really nice things about SQLite and let's say ChatGPT is LLMs are really good at writing SQL. So let's say I only want distinct subject, excuse my spelling, for like war 10. So ChatGPT, because I am lazy, has written query for me here. And here are just the subject matters. Here are the unique subject matters. So let me go in. Let's pick one from the bottom so we haven't seen it before. Subject matter. Oh, so this one seems to be lobbying about the construction of a women's shelter. So if you go through, you'll see, and one that comes up often is real estate development. It seems like whenever you have to upzone or you have to do any real estate development, you end up talking with the city councilor, so you end up having to register here. Now, I could go on and we could spend hours poking around here, but we do have to wrap things up at some point. And let's find my slide deck. So the theme of my 1 year of insanity, my 1 year of curiosity, my 1 year of getting nerds type is stand on the shoulders of giants. I think that's one of the core motivators of open data and open software. Other people have done great work. Other people have collected this data. Other people have built SQLite. Other people have built Claude. Other people have built DataSecond, which is the front end for our database. And we can take advantage of the tools that other people have built to do cool and interesting things. So I encourage you all, once I go home and fix this, to go to lobbyingtoronto.ca and to find the most interesting example of lobbying, whatever most interesting example of lobbying, or to check up on your politicians, see who's speaking to them, and if you see that someone is lobbying them about something, and you want to comment, you can of course email them and say, hey, like maybe you shouldn't do that, or maybe you should do that, right? Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Jared?
That's why
Just go stop share there.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, and I will share to here. Sweet and sweet. All right, let's give another round of applause for Ram. Okay, I think we have about 10 minutes for questions. So if you have a question online, please hop in the chat, and similar to introductions, just drop a Q and we will get you covered. And if you have questions in the room, raise your hand and I'll come around with a microphone. We have 5 minutes. That is the number of minutes we have.
Excellent presentation. I loved all of the nitty-gritty walkthrough. So you gave up on the data cleaning. Could you talk about what the consequences of that in using your system?
So I really would have liked to be able to like directly connect through SQL and directly say like, oh, this is an entity, this entity is communicating with another entity, right? So the thing we have to now rely on is we have to rely on we have to rely on, matching names. So you have to be like this organization with a name that, with a name like Republic Capital. You can't be like this exact row, like this exact entity, right? Because another thing I found is people don't spell the names of their companies like consistently. And I don't think it's malicious. I think they just are inconsistent with like the spaces or putting the dot at the end, right? So you just got to be like Republic Capital, and sometimes they'll be like Republic Capital Incorporated, sometimes Republic Capital like int with a dot, without a dot, right?
All right, we have a question online from Eugene. Eugene's asking, what is something you've been surprised by so far in exploring the data outside of the data issues? And are there some patterns or concerns or weird outliers?
I think the real estate development, I wasn't that surprised about, but I do think a lot of the other ones seem to be people trying to sell things to the city. It seems like I thought people would just use like RFQs and like a normal procurement process, but it seems like part of the procurement process is you lobby random municipal politicians to buy your like enterprise consulting whatever, and then I guess you do the RFQ. I'm not sure.
Anybody else in the room?
Hey, Ram, amazing work, first of all.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that you didn't go towards the cleaning of data and we're just propping up most of the data,
Yes.
right? So how did you address the consistencies in data with the search, right? You're still
So
able to...
the thing about search is you don't. So I did do some rough cleaning where I'm like, we gotta guess, like, is this Canada or not? But like, for example, let's pull up the. Oh, I guess I've stopped sharing my screen. But for example, instead of being like, this is the canonical Republic Capital, we say like all rows where a registrant is like Republic Capital, maybe it starts with a space, maybe it ends with an incorporated, like those are all treated kind of as the same thing.
We had one more question from online from Tom, who was wondering if you had seen or looked at anything similar for provincial or federal, or if you were fully focused on Toronto.
So my understanding is there are similar systems for other municipalities, but considering and those might be separate projects, but considering the poor quality of data here, like I think merging them into like one system it'd be like a real pain. Like it should be treated as like 3 individual lookup tools.
Okay, we are at time, but curious, are you going to be able to spend some time afterwards if people want to do a breakout?
Here.
Amazing, great. Let's get one more round of applause for Ram.